Hello everyone, this is part 3 of What If Naruto Uchiha joins the Olympians, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Once Percy got over the fact that his Latin teacher was a half-horse, he and Naruto had a nice tour, though they were careful not to walk behind him, because you can never trust a horse's backside. They passed the volleyball pit. Several of the campers nudged each other. One pointed to the Minotaur horn Percy was carrying. Another said, "It's them." Most of the campers were older than both. Their satyr friends were bigger than Grover, all of them trotting around in orange Camp Half-Blood t-shirts, with nothing else to cover their bare shaggy hindquarters. Percy wasn't normally shy, but the way they stared at him made him uncomfortable. He felt like they were expecting him to do a flip or something. As for Naruto, he didn't care. Percy looked back at the farmhouse. It was a lot bigger than he did realize, 4 stories tall, sky blue with white trim, like an upscale seaside resort. He was checking out the brass eagle weather vane on top when something caught his eye, a shadow in the uppermost window of the attic gable. Something had moved the curtain, just for a second, and he got the distinct impression he being watched. "What's up there?" Percy asked Chiron. Chiron looked where Percy was pointing, and his smile faded. "Just the attic. Somebody lives there." "No," Chiron said with finality. "Not a single living thing." Naruto looked at the window of the attic and thought, nothing leaving. "Come along, Percy and Naruto," Chiron said, his light-hearted tone now a little forced. "Lots to see." They walked through the strawberry fields, where campers were picking bushels of berries while a satyr played a tune on a reed pipe. Chiron told them the camp grew a nice crop for export to New York restaurants and Mount Olympus. "It pays our expenses," Chiron explained. "And the strawberries take almost no effort." He said Mr. D had this effect on fruit-bearing plants, they just went crazy when he was around. It worked best with wine grapes, but Mr. D restricted from growing those, so they grew strawberries instead. Naruto watched the satyr playing his pipe. His music was causing lines of bugs to leave the strawberry patch in every direction, like refugees fleeing a fire. "Interesting, it is like sound-based ninjutsu," he thought. Then he heard Percy asked Chiron about Grover. "Grover won't get in too much trouble, will he?" Percy asked Chiron. "I mean, he was a good protector, really." Chiron sighed. He shed his tweed jacket and draped it over his horse's back like a saddle. "Grover has big dreams, Percy. Perhaps bigger than being reasonable. To reach his goal, he must first prove great courage by succeeding as a keeper, finding a new camper and bringing him safely to Half-Blood Hill. But he did that." "I might agree with you," Chiron said. "But it is not my place to judge. Dionysus and the Council of Cloven Elders must decide. I'm afraid they might not see this assignment as a success. After all, Grover lost you and Naruto in New York. Then there's the unfortunate, fate of your mother. And the fact that Grover was unconscious when you dragged him over the property line. It was Naruto who killed the Minotaur. The council might question whether this shows any courage on Grover's part." Percy wanted to protest. None of what happened was Grover's fault. He also felt really guilty. If he hadn't given Grover the slip at the bus station, he might not have gotten in trouble. "He'll get a second chance, won't he?" Chiron winced. "I'm afraid that was Grover's second chance, Percy. The council was not anxious to give him another, either, after what happened the first time, 5 years ago. Olympus knows, I advised him to wait longer before trying again. He's still so small for his age. How old is he? Oh, 28. What? And he's in 6th grade. Satyrs mature half as fast as humans, Percy. Grover has been the equivalent of a middle school student for the past 6 years. That is surprising, Naruto thought. That's horrible, Percy said. Quite, Chiron agreed. At any rate, Grover is a late bloomer, even by satyr standards, and not yet very accomplished at woodland magic. Alas, he was anxious to pursue his dream. Perhaps now he will find some other career. That's not fair, Percy said. What happened the first time? Was it really so bad? Chiron looked away quickly. Yes, Talia turned into a tree, Naruto thought. Let's move along, shall we? Chiron said. Chiron, Percy said. If the gods and Olympus and all that are real. Yes, child. Does that mean the underworld is real, too? Chiron's expression darkened. He looked at Naruto for a split second, but Naruto caught it. Yes, child. He paused, as if choosing his words carefully. There is a place where spirits go after death. But for now, until we know more, I would urge you to put that out of your mind. What do you mean, until we know more? Come Percy, Naruto. Let's see the woods. As they got closer, Percy and Naruto realized how huge the forest was. It took up at least a quarter of the valley, with trees so tall and thick, you could imagine nobody had been in there since the Native Americans. Chiron said, the woods are stocked, if you care to try your luck, but go armed. Stocked with what? Percy asked. Armed with what? You'll see. Capture the flag is Friday night. Do you have your own sword and shield? Percy asked both. Percy said, my own. No. Chiron said, I don't suppose you do. I think a size 5 will do. I'll visit the armory later. Then he looked at Naruto. I already have a weapon, Naruto said, with black flash a black katana appeared in his hand. Chiron saw a weapon. He sensed that, death aura was coming from it. Where did he get that kind weapon? Percy wanted to ask what kind of summer camp had an armory, but there was too much else to think about, so the tour continued. He saw the archery range, the canoeing lake, the stables, the javelin range, the sing-along amphitheater, and the arena where Chiron said they held sword and spear fights. Sword and spear fighting? Percy asked. Cabin challenges and all that, Chiron explained. Not lethal, usually. Oh, yes, and there's the mess hall. He pointed to an outdoor pavilion framed in white Grecian columns on a hill overlooking the sea. There were a dozen stone picnic tables. No roof, no walls. What do you do when it rains? Percy asked. Chiron looked at him as if I'd gone a little weird. We still have to eat, don't we? Percy decided to drop the subject. Finally, he showed him the cabins. There were 12 of them, nestled in the woods by the lake. Naruto had already seen them earlier. Chiron, Naruto said. Yes, Chiron said. I had already seen all of this. So I will meet you later. Chiron nodded and Naruto disappeared from view. Naruto reappeared front of Talia's tree. He touched the tree and entered in limbo. 0 inside limbo 0. Naruto looked Talia, she was sitting on the floor. He said, hey. Talia saw Naruto. Naruto, what are you doing here? She asked. I did promise you, so I'm here to tell you my story. Naruto sat beside her. Your story? Yes. I am from another world. Naruto said. This surprised Talia. He told her his story of his birth. He told her about shinobi, ninja, chakra etc. How did you get here? Naruto said, that story was another time, but first, this is for you. He took the necklace. It was a blue stone that attached by black string. The Japanese kanji of the dragon was written on it. What is this? Talia asked. My gift. Naruto puts the necklace on her neck. Talia saw the necklace. It is beautiful, she said. It is special. If you ever want to talk with me or want my help, just touch that stone on a necklace. I will always there for you, Naruto said and he stood up. Thanks Naruto, Talia said. She kissed Naruto on his cheek. Slight blush was visible on her cheek. You are welcome, Naruto said with his own blush was on his face. He disappeared from there. Talia looked at necklace with a small smile on her lips. 0 with Percy 0. You said your name was Chiron. Are you really? Percy asked. Chiron smiled down at Percy. The Chiron from the stories. Trainer of Hercules and all that. Yes, Percy, I am. He said. But, shouldn't you be dead? Chiron paused and said, I honestly don't know about should be. The truth is, I can't be dead. You see, eons ago the gods granted my wish. I could continue the work I loved. I could be a teacher of heroes as long as humanity needed me. I gained much from that wish. And I gave up much. But I'm still here, so I can only assume I'm still needed. Percy thought about being a teacher for 3,000 years. He asked, doesn't it ever get boring? No, Chiron said. Horribly depressing, at times, but never boring. Why depressing? Chiron seemed to turn hard of hearing again. Oh, look, he said. Annabeth is waiting for us. Percy saw Annabeth was reading a book in front of the last cabin on the left, number 11. When they reached her, she looked him over critically, like she was still thinking about how much he drooled. Percy tried to see what she was reading, but he couldn't make out the title. Percy thought, was my dyslexia acting up? Then he realized the title wasn't even English. The letters looked Greek. There were pictures of temples and statues and different kinds of columns, like architecture book. Annabeth, Chiron said, I have master's archery class at noon. Take Percy from here. Yes, sir. Cabin 11, Chiron told Percy, gesturing toward the doorway. Make yourself at home. He left both alone. Where is Naruto? Annabeth asked to Percy. I'm here, Naruto said, from behind her. Annabeth dropped her book and moved away from the spot. She saw Naruto. Don't do that, she shouted. Naruto ignored her and he picked up a book, which she had dropped on the ground. He opened a front page and started reading it. Interesting book, he said. Annabeth surprised at this. She asked, you can read it? Yes, I know Greek, Japanese, English, French, Latin etc., etc. Really? Annabeth said. Yes. Naruto gave her back her book. Annabeth took the book from him. Wow, she said. Again Naruto succeeded to impress the girl, Percy thought. They looked inside cabin of all the cabins. It looked the most like a regular old summer camp cabin, with the emphasis on the old. The threshold worn down, the brown paint peeling. Over the doorway was one of those doctor's symbols, a winged pole with 2 snakes wrapped around it. Inside, it packed with people, both boys and girls, way more than the number of bunk beds. Sleeping bags spread all over on the floor. It looked like a gym where the Red Cross had set up an evacuation center. Naruto and Percy stood in the doorway, looking at the kids. They were staring at them. Well, Annabeth prompted. Go on. Percy entered into the cabin and tripped coming in the door and made a total fool of him. Good impression, Percy, Naruto said, which got snickers from the campers. He and Annabeth walked inside. Annabeth announced, Percy Jackson and Uchiha Naruto meet cabin 11. Regular or undetermined? Somebody asked. Percy didn't know what to say, but Naruto said, undetermined. Everybody groaned. A guy who was a little older than the rest came forward. Now, campers. That's what we're here for. Welcome, Percy and Naruto. You can have that spot on the floor, right over there. The guy was about 19. He was tall and muscular, with short-cropped sandy hair and a friendly smile. He wore an orange tank top, cutoffs, sandals, and a leather necklace with 5 different colored clay beads. The only thing unsettling about his appearance was a thick white scar that ran from just beneath his right eye to his jaw, like an old knife slash. This is Luke, Annabeth said, and her voice sounded different somehow. Naruto raised his eyebrow and Percy glanced over and would have sworn she was blushing. She saw Percy looking, and her expression hardened again. He's your counselor for now. This is luck. I can sense negative emotion coming from him. I have to keep eyes on him, Naruto thought. For now, Percy asked. You're undetermined, Luke explained patiently. They don't know what cabin to put you 2 in, so you're here. Cabin 11 takes all newcomers, all visitors. Naturally, we would. Hermes, our patron, is the god of travelers. Percy looked at the tiny section of floor they'd given Naruto and him. He had nothing to put there to mark it as his own. Just the Minotaur's horn. But then he remembered that Hermes was also the god of thieves. He looked around at the campers' faces, some sullen and suspicious, some grinning stupidly, some eyeing him as if they were waiting for a chance to pick his pockets. How long will I be here? Percy asked. Good question, Luke said. Until you're determined. How long will that take? The campers all laughed. It will take a long time, Percy, Naruto said. Come on, Annabeth told Percy. I'll show you the volleyball court. I've already seen it. Come on. Annabeth grabbed Percy's wrist and dragged him outside. Naruto saw this and raised his eyebrows at this, while the kids of cabin 11 were laughing. When they were a few feet away, Annabeth said, Jackson, you have to do better than that. What? Percy asked. Annabeth rolled her eyes and mumbled under her breath, I can't believe I thought you were the one. What's your problem? Percy asked in an angry tone. All I know is, I fought some bull guy and one more thing, and it was Naruto, who had killed him. Don't talk like that, Annabeth said. You know how many kids at this camp wish they'd had your chance. To get killed. To fight the Minotaur. What do you think we train for? Percy shook his head. Look, if the thing I fought really was the Minotaur, the same one in the stories. Yes. Then there's only one. Yes, Annabeth said. And he died, like, a gazillion years ago, right? Theseus killed him in the labyrinth. So, Percy said. Monsters don't die, Percy. They can be killed. But they don't die, Naruto said. Both of them looked at Naruto, who suddenly appeared from nowhere. They don't have souls. You can dispel them for a while, but they are primal forces, archetypes. Eventually, they reform. Hush, Percy said. The fur. I mean, your math teacher. She's still out there, Annabeth said. How did you know about Mrs. Dodds? Percy asked. You talk in your sleep. Percy asked. You almost called her something. A fury. They're Hades' torturers, right? Annabeth glanced nervously at the ground, as if she expected it to open up and swallow her. You shouldn't call them by name, even here. We call them the kindly ones, if we have to speak of them at all. Look, is there anything we can say without thundering? Percy said. And why do I have to stay in cabin 11, anyway? Why is everybody so crowded together? There are plenty of empty bunks right over there. He pointed to the first few cabins. Annabeth turned pale. You don't just choose a cabin, Percy. It depends on who your parents are. Or, your parent, she said. My mom is Sally Jackson, Percy said. She works at the candy store in Grand Central Station. At least, she used to. I'm sorry about your mom, Percy. But that's not what I mean. I'm talking about your other parent. Your dad. He's dead. I never knew him. Your father's not dead, Percy, Naruto said. Percy looked confused. What do you mean, Naruto? Your father is God, Naruto said. What? How else would you be allowed here? You a demigod, Percy. How do I know I am a demigod as they are called? Percy asked. Usually demigods are diagnosed with dyslexia and probably ADHD, too, Annabeth said. Percy asked, what about Naruto? He doesn't have ADHD. Annabeth surprised at this. I can answer your question, Naruto said. Both looked toward him. First, I am not from this world, and the second is. He took his kunai from pocket and cut his thumb. Percy and Annabeth both saw his wound healed in few seconds. This surprised both of them. Quote. My healing factor. That's why I don't have ADHD. Anyway, how does ADHD help? Percy asked. ADHD is your battlefield reflexes. In a real fight, they'd keep you alive. As for the attention problems, that's because you see too much, Percy, not too little. Your senses are better than a regular mortal's. Then there is, Annabeth said. She wanted to say more, but she interrupted by someone very familiar to her and Naruto. Well, a newbie. They looked toward a voice direction. They saw Clarisse with her two cabin mate. Clarisse, Annabeth sighed. Why don't you go polish your spear or something? Sure, Miss Princess, Clarisse said. So I can run you through with it Friday night. Eres Caracas, Annabeth said, which in Greek was, go to the crows. You don't stand a chance. We'll pulverize you, Clarisse said, but her eye twitched. Perhaps she wasn't sure she could follow through on the threat. She turned toward Naruto. Hello Clarisse, Naruto said. Hello Naruto, Clarisse said in a normal tone. She turned to Percy. Who's this little runt with you? Percy Jackson, Naruto said, meets Clarisse, daughter of Ares. Percy blinked. Like, the war god. Clarisse sneered. You got a problem with that? No, Percy said, recovering my wits. It explains the bad smell. One day he is going to die, because of his big mouth, Naruto thought. Clarisse growled. We got an initiation ceremony for newbies, Prissy. Percy. Whatever. Come on, I'll show you. Clarisse, Annabeth tried to say. Stay out of it, wise girl. Before Percy does anything, Clarisse held him by the neck and started dragging him toward the bathroom. He dropped his Minotaur horn. Annabeth picked it up. She turned toward Naruto and asked, Naruto, you. Save it. Percy is not a kid. He can handle himself, Naruto said. And hopefully after that, he will learn to keep his mouth shut. Percy was kicking and punching. But it was useless, Clarisse had hands like iron. She dragged him into the girls' bathroom. There was a line of toilets on one side and a line of shower stalls down the other. It smelled just like any public bathroom. Clarisse's friends were all laughing, and Percy was trying to find the strength he did use to fight the Minotaur, but it just wasn't there. Like he's big 3 material, Clarisse said as she pushed him toward one of the toilets. Yeah, right. Minotaur probably fell over laughing, he was so stupid looking. Her friends snickered. Annabeth and Naruto stood in the corner. Clarisse bent Percy over on his knees and started pushing his head toward the toilet bowl. Naruto felt Percy's energy. Well, this is going to be messy, he said. Annabeth asked, what? They heard the plumbing rumble, the pipes shudder. Clarisse's grip on Percy's hair loosened. Water shot out of the toilet, making an arc straight over his head, and he sprawled on the bathroom tiles with Clarisse was screaming behind him. Percy turned just as water blasted out of the toilet again, hitting Clarisse straight in the face so hard it pushed her down onto her butt. She struggled, gasping, and her friends started coming toward her. But then the other toilets exploded, too, and 6 more streams of toilet water blasted them back. The showers acted up, too, and together all the fixtures sprayed the camouflage girls right out of the bathroom, spinning them around like pieces of garbage being washed away. As soon as they were out the door, the water shut off as quickly as it had started. The entire bathroom flooded. Percy looked toward Annabeth and Naruto. He noticed they were in some kind black transparent dome. They were completely dry. Dome disappeared and Naruto said, very nice Percy, the new lord of the bathroom. Percy looked down and realized he was sitting in a dry spot. There was a circle of dry floor around him and he didn't have one drop of water on his clothes. Nothing. Annabeth said, how did you? I don't know. They walked to the door. Outside, Clarisse and her friends sprawled in the mud, and a bunch of other campers had gathered around to gawk. Clarisse's hair flattened across her face. Her camouflage jacket was sopping and she smelled like sewage. She gave Percy a look of absolute hatred. You are dead, new boy. You are totally dead, Percy said. You want to go? Before Percy could say anything, Naruto puts a hand on his mouth. Shut up, Percy, you have a big mouth. Naruto said. Keep it up and you'll get yourself killed. He looked at Clarisse. He saw her friends were holding her. Clarisse. She looked at him. Sleep. Just like Gabe, she fell asleep. Takes her to your cabin. We don't want another mess, he said to her friend. They all nodded and took her toward cabin 5. He removed his hand on Percy's mouth. Percy saw Annabeth stared at both of them. What? Percy demanded. What are you thinking? I'm thinking, she said, that I want both of you on my team to capture the flag. Word of the bathroom incident spread immediately. Wherever they went, campers pointed at Percy and murmured something about toilet water. Annabeth showed Percy a few more places: the metal shop, where kids were forging their own swords, the arts and crafts room, where satyrs were sandblasting a giant marble statue of a goat man, and the climbing wall, which actually consisted of 2 facing walls that shook violently, dropped boulders, sprayed lava, and clashed together if you didn't get to the top fast enough. Naruto was not with them. When they asked where he was going, he told them he was going for training and then disappeared. Finally both of them returned to the canoeing lake, where the trail led back to the cabins. I've got training to do, Annabeth said. Dinner's at 7:30. Just follow your cabin to the mess hall. And one more thing, you need to talk to the Oracle. Who? Percy asked. Not who. What? The Oracle. I'll ask Chiron, Annabeth said. Percy stared into the lake, wishing somebody would give him a straight answer for once. He wasn't expecting anybody to be looking back at him from the bottom, so his heart skipped a beat when he noticed 2 teenage girls sitting cross-legged at the base of the pier, about 20 feet below. They wore blue jeans and shimmering green t-shirts, and the brown hair floated loose around their shoulders as minnows darted in and out. They smiled and waved as if he were a long-lost friend. He didn't know what else to do. He waved back. Don't encourage them, Annabeth warned. Naiads are terrible flirts. Naiads? Percy repeated, feeling completely overwhelmed. That's it. I want to go home. Annabeth frowned. Don't you get it, Percy? You are home. This is the only safe place on Earth for kids like us. That's crazy. What? I mean, I'm Demigod. It's just impossible. But it is true, Percy. What's the most common thing gods did in the old stories? They ran around falling in love with humans and having kids with them. Do you think they've changed their habits in the last few millennia? But those are just, Percy almost said myths again. Then he remembered Chiron's warning. But if all the kids here are half-gods? Demigods, Annabeth said. That's the official term. Or half-bloods. Then who's your dad? Annabeth's hands tightened around the pier railing. My dad is a professor at West Point, she said. I haven't seen him since I was very small. He teaches American history. He's human. What? You assume it has to be a male god who finds a human female attractive. How sexist is that? Who's your mom, then? Cabin 6. Meaning. Annabeth straightened. Athena, goddess of wisdom and battle. Okay, Percy thought. Why not? And my dad? He asked. Undetermined, Annabeth said, like I told you before. Nobody knows. Except my mother. She knew. Maybe not, Percy. Gods don't always reveal their identities. My dad would have. He loved her. Annabeth gave me a cautious look. Maybe you're right. Maybe he'll send a sign. That's the only way to know. Your father has to send you a sign claiming you as his son. Sometimes it happens. You mean sometimes it doesn't? Annabeth ran her palm along the rail. The gods are busy. They have a lot of kids and they don't always. Well, sometimes they don't care about us, Percy. They ignore us. Percy thought about some of the kids he did see in the Hermes cabin, teenagers who looked sullen and depressed, as if they were waiting for a call that would never come. So I'm stuck here, Percy said. That's it. For the rest of my life. It depends, Annabeth said. Some campers only stay the summer. If you're a child of Aphrodite or Demeter, you're probably not a real powerful force. The monsters might ignore you, so you can get by with a few months of summer training and live in the mortal world the rest of the year. But for some of us, it's too dangerous to leave. We're year-rounders. In the mortal world, we attract monsters. They sense us. They come to challenge us. Most of the time, they'll ignore us until we're old enough to cause trouble, about 10 or 11 years old, but after that, most demigods either make their way here, or they get killed off. A few manage to survive in the outside world and become famous. Believe me, if I told you the names, you'd know them. Some don't even realize the demigods. But very, very few are like that. What do you think? Who is Naruto's dad? Percy asked. Naruto is powerful. His dad must be part of Big Three, Annabeth said. But this will be not good for him. Why? Children of Big Three are always more powerful than other half-blood. They always attract a powerful monster. About monsters. They can't get in here. Annabeth shook her head. Not unless they're intentionally stocked in the woods or specially summoned by somebody on the inside. Why would anybody want to summon a monster? Practice fights. Practical jokes, someone said from behind him. What? Percy moved from his spot. He saw it was Naruto. Don't do that. And what do you mean practical jokes? It me, before Naruto could say anything. Annabeth stopped him. Naruto, you can explain him that later, Annabeth said. She looked at Percy. The borders are sealed to keep mortals and monsters out. From the outside, mortals look into the valley and see nothing unusual, just a strawberry farm. Because of that big pine tree, Naruto said. Annabeth shocked, she asked, how did you know that? My eyes can see the shield that made by the tree, Naruto said. Annabeth somehow relaxed. So, you're a year-rounder? Percy asked her. Annabeth nodded. From under the collar of her t-shirt she pulled a leather necklace with 5 clay beads of different colors. It was just like Luke's, except Annabeth's also had a big gold ring strung on it, like a college ring. I've been here since I was 7, she said. Every August, on the last day of summer session, both of you gets a bead for surviving another year. I've been here longer than most of the counselors, and they're all in college. Why did you come so young? Annabeth twisted the ring on her necklace. None of your business, she said. Percy, Naruto said. You can't question others about the personal life. Annabeth gave him a grateful look. Oh, sorry, Percy said. He stood there for a minute in uncomfortable silence. So, I could just walk out of here right now if I wanted to. It would be suicide, but you could, with Mr. D's or Chiron's permission. But they wouldn't give permission until the end of the summer session unless you were granted a quest. But that hardly ever happens. The last time. Her voice trailed off. Both Naruto and Percy could tell from her tone that the last time hadn't gone well. Back in the sick room, Percy said, when you were feeding me that stuff. Ambrosia. Yeah, you asked me something about the summer solstice. Annabeth's shoulders tensed. So you do know something? Well, no. Back at my old school, me and Naruto overheard Grover and Chiron talks about it. Grover mentioned the summer solstice. He said something like we didn't have much time, because of the deadline. What did that mean? Annabeth clenched her fists. I wish I knew. Chiron and the satyrs, they know, but they won't tell me. Something is wrong with Olympus, something pretty major. Last time I was there, everything seemed so normal. You've been to Olympus. Some of us year-rounders, Luke and Clarisse and I and a few others, we took a field trip during winter solstice. That's when the gods have the big annual council. How did you get there? Naruto asked. Annabeth said, the Long Island Railroad, of course. You get off at Penn Station. Empire State Building, special elevator to the 600th floor. Naruto nodded. If there are 600 floors in the Empire State Building, then it has been hidden by illusion or it must in a parallel dimension, he thought. Annabeth looked at Percy like she was sure he must know this already. You are a New Yorker, right? Oh, sure, Percy said. As I knew, there were only 102 floors in the Empire State Building, he thought. Right after we visited, Annabeth continued, the weather got weird, as if the gods had started fighting. A couple of times since, I've overheard satyrs talking. The best I can figure out is that something important was stolen. And if it isn't returned by the summer solstice, there's going to be trouble. When you two came, I was hoping. I mean, Athena can get along with just about anybody, except for Ares. And of course she's got the rivalry with Poseidon. But, I mean, aside from that, I thought we could work together. I thought you might know something. Percy shook his head. I've got to get a quest, Annabeth muttered to herself. I'm not too young. If they would just tell me the problem. Interesting. It must be important, if all gods are fighting over it, Naruto thought. In cabin 11 everybody was talking and horsing around, waiting for dinner. For the first time, Percy noticed that a lot of the campers had similar features, sharp noses, upturned eyebrows, mischievous smiles. They were the kind of kids that teachers would peg as troublemakers. Nobody paid much attention to him as he walked over to his spot on the floor and plopped down with his minotaur horn. The counselor, Luke, came over. He had the Hermes family resemblance, too. It marred by that scar on his right cheek, but his smile was intact. Found you a sleeping bag, he said. And here, I stole you, some toiletries from the camp store. Percy raised an eyebrow, in the stealing part. Thanks, he said. No prob. Luke sat next to him, pushed his back against the wall. Tough first day. But unlike you, it seems that Naruto doesn't have any problem. It's Naruto for you. He is smart and powerful. As for me, I don't belong here, Percy said. I don't even believe in gods. Yeah, Luke said. That's how we all started. Once you start believing in them, it doesn't get any easier. The bitterness in his voice surprised Percy, because Luke seemed like a pretty easygoing guy. He looked like he could handle just about anything. I am just curious, how Naruto is powerful. Even the big three children are not that powerful, Luke said. He is from another world, a land called the Elemental Countries, Percy said. He told him about Naruto. Wow, Luke said. After little minute's silence, Percy asked, so your dad is Hermes? Luke pulled a switchblade out of his back pocket, and for a second Percy thought he was going to gut him, but he just scraped the mud off the sole of his sandal. Yeah, Hermes. The wing-footed messenger guy. That's him. Messengers, medicine, travelers, merchants, thieves. Anybody who uses the roads. That's why you're here, enjoying Cabin 11's hospitality. Hermes isn't picky about who he sponsors. You ever meet your dad? Percy asked. Once. Percy waited, thinking that if he wanted to tell him more. Apparently, he didn't. Luke looked up and managed a smile. Don't worry about it, Percy. The campers here, they're mostly good people. After all, we've extended family, right? We take care of each other. Percy was grateful about him. He decided to ask him his last big question, the one that had been bothering him all afternoon. Clarisse, from Ares, was joking about me being, big three, material. Then Annabeth, twice, she said I might be, the one. She said I should talk to the oracle. What was that all about? Luke folded his knife. I hate prophecies. What do you mean? Luke's face twitched around the scar. Let's just say I messed things up for everybody else. The last 2 years, ever since my trip to the Garden of the Hesperides went sour, Chiron hasn't allowed any more quests. Annabeth's been dying to get out into the world. She pestered Chiron so much he finally told her he already knew her fate. He'd had a prophecy from the oracle. He wouldn't tell her the whole thing, but he said Annabeth wasn't destined to go on a quest yet. She had to wait until somebody special came to the camp. Somebody special. Like Naruto. Don't worry about it, kid, Luke said. I don't know about Naruto. But Annabeth wants to think every new camper who comes through here is the omen she's been waiting for. Now, come on, it's dinner time and where is Naruto? No clue. Both Luke and Percy didn't see Black Raven, who had watching them. They heard a horn blowing in the distance. Luke yelled, 11 fall in. The whole cabin 11, about 20 of children, filed into the common yard. They lined up in order of seniority, so of course Percy was dead last. Campers came from the other cabins, too, except for the 3 empty cabins at the end, and cabin 8, which had looked normal in the daytime, but was now starting to glow silver as the sun went down. They marched up the hill to the mess hall pavilion. Satyrs joined them from the meadow. Naiads emerged from the canoeing lake. A few other girls came out of the woods, straight out of the woods. Percy saw one girl, about 9 or 10 years old, melts from the side of a maple tree and come skipping up the hill. In all, there were maybe 100 campers, a few dozen satyrs, and a dozen assorted wood nymphs and naiads. At the pavilion, torches blazed around the marble columns. A central fire burned in a bronze brazier the size of a bathtub. Each cabin had its own table, covered in white cloth trimmed in purple. 4 of the tables were empty, but cabin 11's was way overcrowded. Percy saw Naruto was already there. You were late, Percy, Naruto said. He gave the Percy seat next to him. Percy saw Grover was sitting at table 12 with Mr. D, a few satyrs, and a couple of plump blonde boys who looked just like Mr. D. Chiron stood to one side, the picnic table being way too small for a centaur. Annabeth sat at table 6 with a bunch of serious-looking athletic kids, all with her grey eyes and honey blonde hair. Clarisse sat behind him at Ares's table. She'd apparently gotten over being hosed down, because she was laughing and belching right along her friends. Finally, Chiron pounded his hoof against the marble floor of the pavilion, and everybody fell silent. He raised a glass. To the gods. Everybody else raised the glasses. To the gods. Wood nymphs came forward with platters of food, grapes, apples, strawberries, cheese, fresh bread, and barbecue. Naruto and Percy saw the glass was empty. Luke said, speak to it. Whatever you want. Non-alcoholic, of course. Black grape juice, Naruto said. His glass filled with dark purple-colored liquid. Percy saw this. Looking at his empty glass, he said, blue cherry coke. The glass filled with sparkling violent liquid. He took a cautious sip. Perfect. Like I drank a toast to my mother. She's not gone, he thought. Not permanently. She's in the underworld. And if that's a real place, then someday. Here you go, Percy, Naruto, Luke said, handing both of them a platter of smoked brisket. Both of them loaded their plates. Percy was about to take a big bite when they noticed everybody getting up, carrying their plates toward the fire in the center of the pavilion. Come on, Luke told them. When they got closer, they saw that everyone was taking a portion of their meal and dropping it into the fire, the ripe strawberry, the juiciest slice of beef, the warmest, most buttery roll. Luke said, burnt offerings for the gods. They like the smell. You're kidding, Percy gave him a deadpan expression. While Naruto raised his ear bow. Luke approached the fire, bowed his head, and tossed in a cluster of fat red grapes. Hermes. Percy was next. I wished I knew what god's name to say, he thought. He made a silent plea. Whoever you are, tell me, please. He scraped a big slice of brisket into the flames. When he caught a whiff of the smoke, it smelled nothing like burning food. It smelled of hot chocolate and fresh-baked brownies, hamburgers on the grill and wildflowers, and 100 other good things that shouldn't have gone well together, but did. Next was Naruto. He throws some his food into flame. Then the smell of sake, chocolate, porky and many good things filled with air. Then suddenly the fire turned pitch black like Amaterasu for a few seconds before turning back normal. Many people saw that but they didn't say anything. When everybody had returned to their seats and finished eating their meals, Chiron pounded his hoof again for our attention. Mr. D got up with a huge sigh. Yes, I suppose I'd better say hello to all you brats. Well, hello. Our activities director, Chiron, says the next capture the flag is Friday. Cabin 5 presently holds the laurels. A bunch of ugly cheering rose from the Ares table. Personally, Mr. D continued, I couldn't care less, but congratulations. Also, I should tell you that we have a 2 new camper today. Peter Johnson. Chiron murmured something to him. Percy Jackson. Mr. D corrected. And Naruto Uchiha. Now run along to your silly campfire. Go on. Everybody cheered. They all headed down toward the amphitheater, where Apollo's cabin led a sing-along. They sang camp songs about the gods and ate s'mores and joked around, and the funny thing was, Percy didn't feel that anyone was staring at him anymore. He felt that he was home. Naruto, I feel like I am home, Percy said to Naruto, but he saw he was not with him. Like always he is not here, Percy thought. From distance Naruto was watching whole camp. So did you really don't know about my father, Karasu-chan? Naruto asked his raven that was standing on his left shoulder. No, Master Naruto. Master Hitomi never told me about him, Karasu said. I believe in you. Naruto looked toward camp. What do you think about this? If your father is God, then this is going to be interesting. Naruto and Karasu both looked at campers, who was singing camp song. The next few days both Naruto and Percy settled into a routine that felt almost normal. They were getting lessons from satyrs, nymphs, and a centaur. Each morning Percy took ancient Greek from Annabeth and Naruto was there to help her. They talked about the gods and goddesses in the present tense, which was kind of weird to Percy. Percy discovered Annabeth was right about his dyslexia. Ancient Greek wasn't that hard for him to read. At least, it was not harder than English. The rest of the day, they rotate through outdoor activities, looking for something they were good at. Chiron tried to teach Percy archery, but they found out pretty quick that he wasn't any good with a bow and arrow. Foot racing. No good either. The wood nymph instructors left him in the dust. They told him not to worry about it. They'd had centuries of practice running away from lovesick gods. But still, it was a little humiliating to be slower than a tree. And wrestling. Forget it. Every time he got on the mat, Clarisse would always pulverize him. The only thing he really excelled at was canoeing, and that wasn't the kind of heroic skill people expected to see from the kid who had fought with the Minotaur. As for Naruto, he was the exact opposite of Percy. Just like school, he was good at all the things. According to Chiron, he was excellent with bows and arrows. In foot racing, he was too fast for his opponent. In wrestling, he threw his opponent out of the ring in his first try. Soon they found Naruto was excellent in using all kinds of weapon. He was best, as people had expected from the kid, who had killed the Minotaur. Both of them knew the senior campers and counselors were watching them, trying to figure out who their parent or parents was, but they weren't having an easy time of it. Don't be sad, Percy. You are doing well, Naruto said. Naruto, I saw you. You were best, just like you were doing in school, and I. Percy said sadly. Percy, you can't compare me to you. I am learning the fight from my age 5. I have a real-life fighting experience. Sorry. No problem. What's your next schedule? I had my first sword fighting lesson. Good luck, Naruto said, and he disappeared from there. Everybody from cabin 11 except Naruto gathered in the big circular arena, where Luke was instructor. They started with basic stabbing and slashing, using some straw-stuffed dummies in Greek armor. Percy was doing okay. At least, he understood what he's supposed to do and his reflexes were good. The problem was he couldn't find a blade that felt right in his hands. Either they were too heavy, or too light, or too long. Luke tried his best to fix his problem, but he agreed that none of the practice blades seemed to work for him. They moved on to dueling in pairs. Luke announced he would be Percy's partner, since this was his first time. Good luck, one of the campers told Percy. Luke was the best swordsman in the last 300 years. Was? Percy asked. 2 days ago, your friend, Naruto easily defeated him. 0 flashback starts 0. Luke was attacking Naruto with a sword. He tried to hit him, but it was blocked. Clash. Others heard the sound of Naruto and Luke's swords hitting each other from away. Again Luke dashed toward Naruto. Naruto dodged the sword slash with one side step. Luke's eyes widened how quick Naruto dodged his attack. But it was too late. Naruto stuck his foot out and Luke tripped over it. Naruto snatched Luke's sword and held it in Luke's throat. 0 flashback ends 0. That's why Naruto is not here, Percy said. Yes, because not only he won the first round of the match, but also won 3 straight rounds. Maybe he'll go easy on me, Percy said. The camper snorted. Luke showed Percy thrusts and parries and shield blocks the hard way. With every swipe, Percy got a little more battered and bruised. Keep your guard up, Percy, Luke said. He fapped him in the ribs with the flat of his blade. No, not that far up. Fap. Lunge. Fap. Now. Back. Fap. By the time Luke called a break, Percy soaked in sweat. Everybody swarmed the drinks cooler. Luke poured ice water on his head, which looked like such a good idea to Percy. He did the same. Instantly, he felt better. Okay, everybody circle up. Luke ordered. If Percy doesn't mind, I want to give you a little demo. Great, Percy thought. Let's all watch Percy gets pounded. The Hermes guys gathered around. They were suppressing smiles. Luke told everybody he was going to prove a disarming technique, how to twist the enemy's blade with the flat of your own sword so that he had no choice but to drop his weapon. This is difficult, Luke stressed. I've had it used against me. No laughing at Percy, now. Most swordsmen have to work years to master this technique. He demonstrated the move on Percy in slow motion. Sure enough, the sword clattered out of his hand. Now in real time, Luke said, after Percy retrieved his weapon. We keep sparring until one of us pulls it off. Ready, Percy? Percy nodded, and Luke came after him. Somehow, Percy kept Luke from getting a shot at the hilt of his sword. Percy's senses opened up. He saw Luke's attacks coming. He countered. He stepped forward and tried a thrust of his own. Luke deflected it easily, but he saw a change in his face. His eyes narrowed, and he started to press him with more force. The sword grew heavy in Percy's hand. The balance wasn't right. He knew it was only a matter of seconds before Luke took him down. Then Percy's blade hit the base of Luke's and he twisted it, putting his whole weight into a down thrust. Clang. Luke's sword rattled against the stones. The tip of his blade was an inch from his undefended chest. The other campers were silent. Percy lowered his sword. Sorry. For a moment, Luke was too stunned to speak. Sorry. His scarred face broke into a grin. By the gods, Percy, why are you sorry? Show me that again. Next time, there was no contest. The moment their swords connected, Luke hit Percy's sword's hilt and sent his weapon skidding across the floor. After a long pause, somebody in the audience said, "Beginner's luck." Luke wiped the sweat off his brow. He appraised at Percy with an entirely new interest. Maybe, he said, but I wonder what Percy could do with a balanced sword. Friday afternoon, Percy was sitting with Grover and Naruto at the lake, resting from a near-death experience on the climbing wall. Grover and Naruto had scampered to the top without a scratch, but the lava had almost gotten him. His shirt had smoking holes in it. The hairs had been singed off his forearms. They sat on the pier, watching the naiads underwater. Percy asked Grover how your conversation had gone with Mr. D. Grover's face turned a sickly shade of yellow. Fine, he said. Just great. So your career's still on track? Naruto asked. He glanced at Naruto and Percy nervously. Chiron T told you I want to search his license. Well, no, Percy said. He just said you had big plans, you know. And that you needed credit for completing a keeper's assignment. So did you get it? Grover looked down at the naiads. Mr. D suspended judgment. He said I hadn't failed or succeeded with you two. Yet, so our fates were still tied together. If any of you got a quest and I went along to protect one of you, and we both came back alive, then maybe he'd consider the job complete. Percy's spirits lifted. He said, well, that's not so bad, right? Blah ha ha. He might as well have transferred me to stable cleaning duty. The chances of you getting a quest. And even if you did, why would you want me along? Of course I'd want you along. Percy said. Grover stared glumly into the water. Basket weaving. Must be nice to have a useful skill. Percy tried to reassure Grover that he had lots of talents, but that just made him look more miserable. If you want to succeed, stop thinking that people's opinion is important. If you believe in yourself, then people will be forced to believe in you, Naruto said. Grover's spirits lifted and he nodded. Then they talked about canoeing and swordplay for a while, then debated the pros and cons of the different gods. Finally, Percy asked Grover about the 4 empty cabins. Number 8, the silver one, belongs to Artemis, Grover said. She vowed to be a maiden forever. So of course, no kids. The cabin is, you know, honorary. If she didn't have one, she'd be mad. Yeah, okay. But the other 3, the ones at the end. Are those the big 3? Percy asked. Grover tensed. No. One of them, number 2, is Hera's, he said. That's another honorary thing. She's the goddess of marriage, so of course she wouldn't go around having affairs with mortals. That's her husband's job. When we say the big three, we mean the three powerful brothers, the sons of crones. Zeus, Poseidon, Hades, Naruto said. Grover nodded. Right. You know. After the great battle with the Titans, they took over the world from the dad and drew lots to decide who got what. Zeus got the sky, Naruto said, Poseidon the sea, Hades the underworld. Aha. But Hades doesn't have a cabin here. No. He doesn't have a throne on Olympus, either. He sort of does his own thing down in the underworld. If he did have a cabin here. Grover shuddered. Well, it wouldn't be pleasant. Let's leave it at that. Percy asked, but Zeus and Poseidon, they both had, like, a bazillion kids in the myths. Why are their cabins empty? Grover shifted his hooves uncomfortably and Naruto answered Percy's question. About 60 years ago, after World War II, the big three agreed they wouldn't sire any more heroes. Their children were just too powerful. They were affecting the course of human events too much, causing too much carnage. World War II, you know, that was basically a fight between the sons of Zeus and Poseidon on one side, and the sons of Hades on the other. The winning side, Zeus and Poseidon, made Hades swear an oath by them, no more affairs with mortal women. They all swore on the river Styx. Grover surprised. How do you know that? He asked to Naruto. Chiron told me. Percy said, that's the most serious oath you can make. Grover nodded. And the brothers kept their word, no kids. Grover's face darkened. 17 years ago, Zeus fell off the wagon. There was this TV starlet with a big fluffy 80s hairdo, he just couldn't help himself. When their child was born, a little girl named Talia. Well, the river Styx is serious about the promises. Zeus himself got off easy because he's immortal, but he brought a terrible fate on his daughter. But that isn't fair. It wasn't the little girl's fault. Grover hesitated. Percy, children of the big three have powers greater than other half-bloods. They have a strong aura, a scent that attracts monsters. When Hades found out about the girl, he wasn't too happy about Zeus breaking his oath. Hades let the worst monsters out of Tartarus to torment Talia. A satyr was assigned to be her keeper when she was 12, but there was nothing he could do. He tried to escort her here with a couple of other half-bloods she'd befriended. They almost made it. They got all the way to the top of that hill. He pointed across the valley, to the pine tree where they fought the Minotaur. All three kindly ones were after them, along with a horde of hellhounds. They were about to be overrun when Talia told her satyr to take the other two half-bloods to safety while she held off the monsters. She was wounded and tired, and she didn't want to live like a hunted animal. The satyr didn't want to leave her, but he couldn't change her mind, and he had to protect the others. So Talia made her final stand alone, at the top of that hill. As she died, Zeus took pity on her. He turned her into that pine tree. Her spirit still helps protect the borders of the valley. That's why the hill is called Half-Blood Hill. Yes, but she is lonely and sad. Looking at Pine Tree Naruto though. Percy stared at the pine in the distance. The story made him feel hollow, and guilty. A girl his age had sacrificed herself to save her friends. She had faced a whole army of monsters. Next to that, he's fighting with the Minotaur didn't seem like much. Percy wondered, if I'd acted differently, could I have saved my mother? Grover, he said, has heroes really gone on quests to the underworld? Sometimes, Grover said. Orpheus, Hercules, Houdini. And have they ever returned somebody from the dead? No, never. Orpheus came close. Percy, you're not seriously thinking. No, Percy lied. I was just wondering. So, a satyr is always assigned to guard a demigod. Grover studied Percy warily. Percy hadn't persuaded him that he had really dropped the underworld idea, for now. Not always. We go undercover to a lot of schools. We try to sniff out the half-bloods who have the makings of great heroes. If we find one with a very strong aura, like a child of the big three, we alert Chiron. He tries to keep an eye on them, since they could cause really huge problems. And you found me and Naruto. Chiron said you thought we might be something special. Grover looked as if Percy had just led him into a trap. I didn't. Oh, listen, don't think like that. If you were, you know, you'd never ever be allowed a quest, and I'd never get my license. You're probably a child of Hermes. Or maybe even one of the minor gods, like Nemesis, the god of revenge. Don't worry, okay. What about Naruto, Grover? Percy asked. About Naruto, well, Grover noticed Naruto was not with them. Where is he? I thought he was with us, he asked. They looked around. Both of them saw Chiron and Annabeth coming toward them. Well, hello Percy, Grover, Chiron said. Do you know where Naruto is? Few minutes ago, he was with us, Grover said. Can you help us to find him? Chiron said. Why? Percy asked. Naruto has great knowledge of herb and he also knows medical technique. We will need them after capture the flag game, Annabeth said. Grover said in surprised tone, Naruto is also doctor. You can say that, Chiron said. Percy said, well, every day, you can learn more about him. Both of them agreed to find Naruto. They soon found him lakeside. They all had shocked what they were seeing. Percy said, is he standing? Quote. On top of the water. Grover completed. And he is fighting with himself. Annabeth said. Front of them was two Naruto. Both of them were fighting with each other. Suddenly both Naruto disappeared and appeared on the middle of the lake, throwing punches and kicks at each other at great speed. Then they vanished again. I can't see them. They are moving so fast, Percy said. They appeared again and punched each other's fists, which create a shockwave. Whoa, they are powerful. Grover said. Both Naruto moved from each other and started making some hand sign. They both shouted at the same time. Water release. Water dragon bullet technique, Suten, Suiruden no Jutsu. First Naruto shouted and large amount of water rose from the lake, and it took a shape of giant, powerful dragon. Fire release. Fire dragon flame bullet, Kaiten, Koryu Enden. Second Naruto shouted. He took a deep breath and exhaled a long stream of incredibly hot fire from the mouth, which took the form of large dragon. Both dragons charged each other and they collided at the same time. Boom. That sent shockwave in the whole lake. Percy, Annabeth, Grover and Chiron looked toward the lake, and found they can't see anything, because of water vapor. A few minutes later, vapor disappeared. They saw both Naruto were perfectly fine. They don't have any scratch on them. That was, Percy said. Grover said. Incredible. Quote. Amazing, Annabeth said with stars in her eyes. He has ability to manipulate fire and water both, Chiron thought. Suddenly, both Naruto disappeared and reappeared front of them. They saw both Naruto and noticed second Naruto's eyes. They were red slit with black background. Chiron saw second Naruto. He has an aura of pure evil, he thought. Second Naruto smirked evilly at him, making chills run down their spine. Then he melted into first Naruto's shadow. Who was he? Annabeth asked, with fear in her voice. Suddenly all heard a loud thud. They saw unconscious Grover on the ground. Naruto sweat dropped. He is Yami Naruto. It is my inner darkness in my heart. Inner darkness? Percy asked. It means your dark thought, your desire, your anger, etc., Chiron said. It means your dark half, Annabeth said. Percy nodded. That's why you had tried to kill him. He said to Naruto. Naruto said, you can't kill your darkness. Why? Because it's part of you. You can only accept it. It only way, Percy. He is right, Percy, Chiron said. Darkness is equally part of our life. You can't deny it. So why you all are here? Naruto asked. Annabeth explained him about the medical need after the game. You want my help? Naruto asked. Chiron and Annabeth nodded. Okay. And I think I have already got my first patient. He looked at unconscious Grover. Other sweat dropped at this. That night after dinner, there was a lot more excitement than usual. It was time to capture the flag. When the plates cleared away, the conch horn sounded and all stood at our tables. Campers yelled and cheered as Annabeth and two of her siblings ran into the pavilion carrying a silk banner. It was about 10 feet long, glistening gray, with a painting of a barn owl above an olive tree. From the opposite side of the pavilion, Clarisse and her buddies ran in with another banner, of same size, but gaudy red, painted with a bloody spear and a boar's head. Percy turned to Luke and yelled because of notice. Those are the flags. Yeah. Ares and Athena always lead the teams. Not always, he said. But often. So, if another cabin captures one, what do? Repaint the flag. He grinned. You'll see. First we have to get one. Whose side are we on? He gave me a sly look, as if he knew something I didn't. The scar on his face made him look almost evil in the torchlight. We've made a temporary alliance with Athena. Tonight, we get the flag from Ares. And you are going to help. What about Naruto? He said he doesn't want to play. But after the game, he is providing us medical treatment. I always thought Naruto is great warrior. But I never thought he is also a doctor. The teams were announced. Athena had made an alliance with Apollo and Hermes, the two biggest cabins. Apparently, privileges had been traded, shower times, shore schedules, the best slots for activities, in order to win support. Ares had allied themselves with everybody else, Dionysus, Demeter, Aphrodite, and Hephaestus. Dionysus's kids were actually good athletes, but there were only 2 of them. Demeter's kids had the edge with nature skills and outdoor stuff, but they weren't very aggressive. Aphrodite's sons and daughters they weren't too worried about. They mostly sat out every activity and checked their reflections in the lake and did their hair and gossiped. Hephaestus's kids weren't pretty, and there were only 4 of them, but they were big and burly from working in the metal shop all day. That, of course, left Ares's cabin, a dozen of the big kids. Chiron hammered his hoof on the marble. Heroes, he announced. You know the rules. The creek is the boundary line. The entire forest is fair game. All magic items are allowed. The banner must be prominently displayed, and have no more than 2 guards. Prisoners may be disarmed, but may not be bound or gagged. No killing or maiming is allowed. I will serve as referee and battlefield medic. Arm yourselves. He spread his hands, and the tables were suddenly covered with equipment, helmets, bronze swords, spear, oxide shields coated in metal. Whoa, Percy said. We're really supposed to use these? Luke looked at me as if he were crazy. Unless you want to get skewered by your friends in cabin 5. Here. Chiron thought these would fit. You'll be on board a patrol. Percy's shield was the size of an NBA backboard, with a big caduceus in the middle. It weighed about 1,000,000 pounds. I hope nobody seriously expected me to run fast, Percy thought. His helmet, like all the helmets on Athena's side, had a blue horsehair plume on top. Ares and their allies had red plumes. Annabeth yelled, "Blue team, forward." All cheered and shook their swords and followed her down the path to the south woods. The red team yelled taunts at them as they headed off toward the north. Percy managed to catch up with Annabeth without tripping over his equipment. Hey. She kept marching. So what's the plan? He asked. Got any magic items you can loan me? Just watch Clarisse's spear, Annabeth said. You don't want that thing touching you. Otherwise, don't worry. We'll take the banner from Ares. Has Luke given you your job? Border patrol, whatever that means. It's easy. Stand by the creek, keep the Reds away. Leave the rest to me. Athena always has a plan. Annabeth pushed ahead, leaving Percy in the dust. Okay, Percy mumbled. Glad you wanted me on your team. From long distance, Chiron and Mr. D were waiting for something will happen. Mr. D was sitting on a chair, while Chiron was just standing there. Are you waiting for something will happen? Naruto asked. He appeared there with the swirling of the vortex. Welcome Naruto, Chiron greeted him. Yes, I wish something interesting would happen, Mr. D said. Why you are here? I thought you liked the challenge. This children's game, who doesn't know what is war, Naruto said. Mr. D said, I completely agree with you. Then he turned toward Chiron. It's good to know, at least one half-blood has brain. Yes Mr. D, Chiron said. Naruto asked Mr. D, so why you are sitting here? You are God. You can use your power to see what is happening in game. My restrictions. Oh, let me help you, Naruto said, as suddenly wooden pole rose from the ground in front of Mr. D. That surprised Mr. D and Chiron. Okay, last time I checked, I am not your father, Mr. D said. Was Hashirama Senju your son? Mr. D shook his head negatively. Well, I thought he was your son, but he had power to control tree. In the last battle with him, my grandfather had acquired his some power. I had got this power from him. Interesting. But how this wooden pole will help us? This is only for. Puff of smoke crystal ball appeared in Naruto's hand. This. What is this? It is a tool for telescope technique, Naruto said. He put a crystal on the wooden pole. Today, blue team will win. Why not red? They have a war god cabin with them, Mr. D asked. If you know your enemies and know yourself, you will not be imperiled in 100 battles. And the blue team knows their enemy. They have a plan, Naruto said, as Percy's image appeared in the crystal ball. 0 with Percy 0. It was a warm, sticky night. The woods were dark, with fireflies popping in and out of view. Annabeth stationed Percy next to a little creek that gurgled over some rocks, then she and the rest of the team scattered into the trees. Standing there alone, with big blue feathered helmet and huge shield, Percy felt like an idiot. There was no way anybody would actually attack me, would they? I mean, Olympus had to have liability issues, right? He thought. Percy heard far away, the conch horn blew. Then he heard whoops and yells in the woods, the clanking of metal, kids fighting. A blue-plumed ally from Apollo raced past him like a deer, leaped through the creek, and disappeared into enemy territory. Great, Percy thought. I'll miss all the fun, as usual. Then he heard a sound that sent a chill up his spine, a low canine growl, somewhere close by. Percy raised his shield instinctively, he had the feeling something was stalking him. Then the growling stopped. He felt the presence retreating. Suddenly, 5 Ares warriors came yelling and screaming out of the dark. Cream the punk, Clarisse screamed. Her eyes glared through the slits of her helmet. She brandished a 5-foot-long spear, its barbed metal tip flickering with red light. Her siblings had only the standard-issue bronze swords. They charged across the stream. There was no help in sight. Percy could run. Or he could defend himself against half the Ares cabin. Percy managed to sidestep the first kid's swing. They surrounded him, and Clarisse thrust at him with her spear. His shield deflected the point, but he felt a painful tingling all over his body. His hair stood on end. His shield arm went numb, and the air burned. Her spear was electric. He fell back. Another Ares guy slammed him in the chest with the butt of his sword and he hit the dirt. They started laughing. Give him a haircut, Clarisse said. Grab his hair. Percy managed to get to his feet. He raised his sword, but Clarisse slammed it aside with her spear as sparks flew. Now both his arms felt numb. Oh, well, Clarisse said. I'm scared of this guy. Really scared. The flag is that way, Percy managed to say. Yeah, one of Clarisse's siblings said. But see, we don't care about the flag. We care about a guy who made our cabin look stupid. You do that without my help, Percy told them. 0 with Naruto 0. Naruto saw Percy opened his big mouth again. Idiot, Naruto said. His need to learn to keep his big mouth shut. Mr. D and Chiron nodded. They saw Clarisse stuck her spear in Percy's ribs and one of her cabin mates slashed his sword across his arm, leaving a good size cut. They are taking this too far, Chiron said, as he saw they pushed Percy into water. This is going to be interesting, Mr. D said. Yes, Naruto said. Chiron's sweat dropped, when he saw both of them were eating popcorn. Chiron goes there, this game will end soon, Mr. D said. Chiron nodded and left. 0 back to Percy 0. Clarisse and her cabin mates came into the creek to get Percy, but he stood to meet them. Somehow, Percy knew what to do. He swung the flat of his sword against the first guy's head and knocked his helmet cleans off. He hit him so hard and he crumpled into the water. Number 2 and number 3 came at Percy. He slammed one in the face with his shield and used his sword to shear off the other guy's horsehair plume. Both of them backed up quickly. Number 4 didn't look really anxious to attack, but Clarisse kept coming, the point of her spear crackling with energy. As soon as she thrust, Percy caught the shaft between the edge of his shield and his sword, and he snapped it like a twig. Ah, Clarisse screamed. You idiot, you corpse breath worm. She probably would have said worse, but Percy smacked her between the eyes with his sword butt and sent her stumbling backward out of the creek. Then Percy heard yelling, elated screams, and he saw Luke racing toward the boundary line with the red team's banner lifted high. He flanked by a couple of Hermes guys covering his retreat and a few from Apollo behind them, fighting off the Hephaestus kids. The Ares folks got up, and Clarisse muttered a dazed curse. A trick, she shouted. It was a trick. They staggered after Luke, but it was too late. Everybody converged on the creek as Luke ran across into friendly territory. Other side exploded into cheers. The red banner shimmered and turned to silver. The boar and spear replaced with a huge caduceus, the symbol of Cabin 11. Everybody on the blue team picked up Luke and started carrying him around on their shoulders. Chiron canted out from the woods and blew the conch horn. The game was over. We'd won, Percy thought. He was about to join the celebration when Annabeth's voice, right next to him in the creek, said, "Not bad, hero." Percy looked, but she wasn't there. "Where the heck did you learn to fight like that?" she asked. The air shimmered, and she materialized front of him, holding a Yankees baseball cap, as if she'd just taken it off her head. Percy realized something. You set me up, he said angrily. You put me here because you knew Clarisse would come after me, while you sent Luke around the flank. You had it all figured out. Annabeth shrugged. I told you. Athena always has a plan. A plan to get me pulverized. I came as fast as I could. I was about to jump in, but. Annabeth said. You didn't need help. Then she noticed his wounded arm. How did you do that? Sword cut, Percy said. What do you think? No. It was a sword cut. Look at it. The blood was gone. Where the huge cut had been, there was a long white scratch, and even that was fading. As he watched, it turned into a small scar, and disappeared. I don't get it, Percy said. Annabeth was thinking hard. She looked down at his feet, then at Clarisse's broken spear, and said, Step out of the water, Percy. What? Just do it. Percy came out of the creek and immediately felt bone-tired. His arms started to go numb again. He almost fell over, but Annabeth steadied him. Oh, sticks, Annabeth cursed. This is not good. I didn't want. I assumed it would be Zeus. Before Percy could ask what she meant, he heard the canine growl again, but much closer than before. A howl ripped through the forest. The campers' cheering died instantly. Annabeth drew her sword. There on the rocks just above them was a black hound the size of a rhino, with lava-red eyes and fangs like daggers. It was looking straight at Percy. Nobody moved except Annabeth, who yelled, Percy, run. She tried to step in front of him, but the hound was too fast. It leaped over her, an enormous shadow with teeth, and just as it hit me, as he stumbled backward and felt its razor-sharp claws ripping through his armor. But before Hound could do anything, black chain with razor-sharp tip emerged from the ground, and tied it to the ground. Then they started to pull it away from Percy. Then suddenly with a flock of crows, Naruto raised from the ground like a ghost. He was wearing standard Anbu uniform consisting of black and gray armor, metal arm guards and fingerless gloves, black boots, 3 ninja pouches on his waist. On his back there was symbol like Juubi's red eyes, and he had a black bracelet on his left shoulder, which was given by his great-grandfather. He looked at Annabeth and said, Annabeth, take Percy with you. Annabeth nodded. She took Percy with her, but she saw black chains which were holding Hound. They were coming out of his right hand. Naruto turned toward Hound and pulled it near him using chains. When he few meters away from him, all chains were holding Hound, were vanished. Naruto disappeared with a burst of speed, and reappeared front of the Hound. He punched him and sent him skidding near water. His eyes turned in eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. A ball of black flame had formed in Naruto's right hand. Blaze release, cry of the raven, he shouted and threw it up. It took a shape of a huge black raven and flew upward. With a loud cry, boom. It crashed down on a Hound. All campers shocked. Someone from Ares' cabin shouted, Whoa. That was awesome. After that, murmuring and whispering started in all campers. How did? That was Inkri. He is looking hot. Naruto sweat dropped at the last comment. He saw many of the girls from all different cabins have a predator-like the look on their face while girls from Aphrodite cabin was blushing madly. Please, no fangirls. Please, no fangirls. Please. Naruto started to pray. Annabeth looked toward where Hound was. She saw a Hound wasn't there, but she noticed black flames were still burning there. Most shocking things were they were burning on the surface of the water. What kind of fire is this? It is burning on the surface of water. Annabeth said. This is the jet black flames of the Amaterasu. They are as hot as the sun, someone said, from behind her. She turned around and saw it was Mr. D. Amaterasu is said to never stop burning. Even when whatever is caught by the Amaterasu is completely reduced to ash or destroyed, it can still continue burning for 7 days and 7 nights. It cannot be extinguished with water or any other normal methods. Luke came over, the banner in his hand forgotten, his moment of glory gone. Chiron came near Mr. D. Die immortals, he said. That's a hellhound from the fields of punishment. They're not supposed to hear. Someone summoned it, Mr. D said. Someone inside the camp. Clarisse heard it. She pointed at Percy and yelled, It's all Percy's faults. Percy summoned it. Be quiet, child, Chiron told her. Naruto saw black flame on water surface. He has made some hand gesture and all flame disappeared with that. You're wounded, Annabeth told Percy. Quick, Percy, gets in the water. I'm okay. No, you're not, Annabeth said. Chiron, watch this. Percy was too tired to argue. He stepped back into the creek, the whole camp gathering around him. Instantly, Percy felt better. All sore cuts on his chest closing up. Some of the campers gasped. Look, I don't know why, Percy said, trying to apologize. I'm sorry. He noticed they weren't watching his wounds heal. They were staring at something above his head. Percy, Annabeth said, pointing. By the time Percy looked up, the sign was already fading, but he could still make out the hologram of green light, spinning and gleaming. A three-tipped spear, a trident. Your father, Annabeth murmured. This is really not good. It is determined, Chiron announced. All around him, campers started kneeling, even the Ares cabin and Naruto, though they both didn't look happy about it. My father? Percy asked, completely bewildered. Poseidon, said Chiron. Earthshaker, Stormbringer, father of horses. Hail, Perseus Jackson, son of the sea god. Suddenly a bright light spread in the camp. All looked toward the light direction. They gasped when they saw three symbols above Naruto's head. The blood drained from Mr. D and Chiron's face when they saw third symbol. There were three symbols above Naruto. First one was largest symbol and it was golden helmet. Second was smaller than first one, but larger than last one. It was eight-sided mirror, and it was behind Tori symbol. Last one was smallest symbol and it looked like the comprised 8 arrows in a radial pattern. H Hades O of the U underworld, Annabeth said. But what about other two? Middle symbol is Amaterasu. She is a major deity of the Shinto religion. She is the goddess of the sun, but also of the universe, Chiron said. Naruto was surprised at this. My dad is Hades surprised me, my mother's mother, my grandmother is Amaterasu. It shocked me. Last symbol must be my great-grandfather's. And last one? Clarisse asked. I never saw symbol like this. Whose symbol is this, Greek or Shinto? It's Greek symbol, Chiron said. He glanced at the Mr. D direction. This is symbol of chaos, cows, Mr. D said. All campers looked at him in confusion. He is the first immortal, the void from which everything has emerged, the oldest and strongest of the immortals. It is determined, Chiron announced. Naruto Uchiha is the son of Hades, and related to Shinto goddess Amaterasu and Chaos, cows. Suddenly all three symbols above Naruto's head started to combine and then they formed new symbol. It was the red circular symbol, with 4 concentric circles and 9 commas in them. The symbol was shown only for a few seconds, and then disappeared. No one, but only Chiron saw that symbol. He noticed the same symbol on Naruto's back. Whose symbol is this? He thought. That will be it for this video. If you want more, comment down below, like, subscribe. And see you guys later.